Libraries are essential in education, but them on their own, without supporting programs, become white elephants. There's one of the speakers there who spoke about spelling bees. I remember at the time when Mr. Mandela was president and he asked businesses to donate to build schools. A lot of those schools became white elephants because the system was not ready to receive them. So there was no teachers, they had not planned for anything. So it's important that when you enter in partnerships like this, you understand that it goes with all different parts. And so the partnership then, and I think it still does now, looked at spelling bees. They supported the National Teacher Awards, which they still do, and many other programs. So on this day, I'm honored to be here because for me, it is a tribute to my great friend, Marius. We continue to see the fruit of his and his team's labor. The other day, I was talking about him to a friend of mine. He said he was going to be here, who reminded me that I invited Marius to my 50th birthday. I think the things we got up to then are things that cannot be printed on any document. So continue to rest in peace, my friend, and I hope that you look down and you see as we celebrate your African footprint. Of course, I also agreed to the invitation because I wanted to express my own gratitude as a South African, an educationist, a passionate reader, and a champion for literacy, for the work that AVBOB continues to do. I read the statistics and I remain in awe. Donating almost 1,000 trolleys to deserving communities in 3 years is no mean feat. The rand value, which is 60 million rand, I like rounding things off. When you say comma something, something, I don't want to do the other president's things. So I just do 60 million and I leave it like that. So if it's 55 point something for me, it's 60 million. But that's huge. But I think for me, the biggest impact of the initiative is bigger because it is everlasting. You see the beauty of literacy and reading in that it is addictive. When you start reading, you like reading. And no one can take you away from you unless you remove it yourself. By the way, for me, we're not only just celebrating 3 years, we're celebrating almost 10 years of AVBOB's involvement and investment in education. So how did my passion for reading start and how is it grown? I grew up in Soweto. My parents used to have, I don't know, my age group is scarce here, but when we grew up, they used to have these encyclopedias. I could never read them, but so we used to look at them every day, and my mother would just page, and I see these wild animals, and we would talk about the different animals, but they were age appropriate. But I also read comic books, Drum magazine at the time, Bona. I always say my dad was an organic maths teacher. He didn't study maths, but he used to help us with maths. I'm not sure whether he gave us the right numbers, but he used to say he knows maths. The second reason that I love reading is because of my primary school teacher, Mrs. Sithole, who died recently. Mrs. Sithole, Mastole, made me fall in love with reading because you actually reminded me of her because she read every book with passion. I could actually see, if it was about animals, you could see the animals coming alive. My own grandmother, who was a domestic worker, but a passionate storyteller. She used to work, at that time it used to, Northcliffe, I don't know whether it's still around, but she used to work in Northcliffe as a domestic worker. So when we visited her, she would come back, because you know, madam at that time, when the domestic workers finished, they would give them leftover food. But my favorite thing was the white bread and jam. I don't know why I thought it was the greatest thing, but she used to bring white bread and jam. But also she used to bring old magazines that madam had bought and had stopped reading. And she would make up stories based on the photos in those magazines. And as I said, my mother also bought the magazines. At the time, in their attempt to shut us out of the world as black people, the apartheid system did us a big favor. It forced us to learn in our own languages. I only started English in standard 6. I learned my primary school in mother tongue. And I think that's the greatest mistake that we've made as the new system, in that we didn't understand that the foundation for further learning is your own language. So at that time, the Bona magazines and Drum magazines also started publishing in indigenous languages. We started to read about the Black Miss South Africa, the different soaps, Lux, and how they make you beautiful. Of course, we also read about skin lightness, because it was important and relevant to be white at the time. So a lot of the adverts were about the cream that you would apply. So when you see most of our older people having skin challenges, it's because we wanted to be white. But these magazines became also very important because they also served as mobilization for our people. A lot has been written. In fact, the MCs have just spoken about why literacy is important and why reading at initial stages of a child's life is important. Studies also show that early exposure to literacy and numeracy, as our colleague from Oxford has said, they instill confidence. I remember I used to stand on stage and speak like an adult because I read a lot. Sometimes I didn't know what I was talking about, but I had which I still have, I have incredible confidence because words and knowledge gave me that kind of independence, but they also gave me an ability to imagine. I always tell people that I started traveling the world before I started traveling the world. Because when you read books, you travel. People who work in nutrition and health often speak about the importance of the first 1,000 days of a child's life. That's the time from conception until they're 2 years old. This is the time when the brain starts forming and the body grows and the immune system grows, and that's when the brain develops significantly. During pregnancy, they will always tell you that your health, nutrition, and stress levels can influence your baby's future. By the way, that's why sometimes I worry when women don't think they are worthy. And sometimes when we get in these positions, we want to behave like men. Our strength lies in our nurturing. We carry beings for 9 months. From the time it is a tiny seed, you grow it to be like those beautiful young people. That's power. So sometimes I look at men and go, donate nje. I mean, I nurtured this thing. However, we also know that play, reading, and calmness plays an important part in the life of an unborn child. As a school at OLEG, we do a lot of work on trauma and how it impacts learning and teaching. No one in the world has not been through trauma. I think as we grow older, we learn to ignore it. We think we've got it, and then it catches up with you later. So we have programs that help schools to be trauma aware and informed. What we know through the work of Dr. Bruce Perry is that trauma experienced by a child when the mother is pregnant has a long-lasting effect on the unborn child. So when a mother has been abused, a mother has gone through stress, sometimes the child is born premature or with some deficiencies. And so unless something is done at an early stage, the child starts having mental health issues as they continue to grow. And I think that's where the problem is in our country, is that we have never understood the importance of the 1,000 days and what it means to take care of the mother. So when I see initiatives like these, where a mother can sit and read with a child in the tummy, we don't understand that the child can hear you and listen, and they get into the culture. The most important partner in literacy and the neglected one is the parent, the caregiver. My passion for literacy, firstly, I started in education as an adult education person, so we did the Karikude campaign. Because when I look at this, I remember my grandmother would look at that and tell you in Ndlovu, and tell you a story about each of the animals, even though she couldn't read. But she helped me to form a language and words. And so when your grandmother does that, it's important for young people because you must approach early learning in an age-appropriate manner, but it must also be fun. So again, when you were reading, I went back to my 5-year-old self, and I was immersed in the story, and I appreciated the story. And I think even if you didn't understand Zulu, you probably got a sense of the emotion and the passion. Unfortunately, like many initiatives, the Karikude campaign fizzled out. And I think we cannot afford to commit the same mistakes again of denying quality access and education to all, because we will forever be chasing a dream. We are still fighting against all odds. Even now, we're still talking about the importance of marginalized languages. So Oxford University Press, you're leading the pack, because many schools, in fact, many of our children, the best place is TikTok, is social media. We engage with them in English. They don't speak their mother tongue. They play in English. What we don't understand is that they lose their self and their origins and who they are. Because who we are is in the language, and the language captures our own identity. So I'm very grateful that you publish books in all languages. I grew up listening, like I said, to my grandmother liked telling izinganekwane, fairy tales. And we would go on weekends and listen, and you would imagine yourself in that space. And as I grew up in Soweto, which has its own lingo, people always wonder why I speak perfect Zulu. It's not because I'm from KwaZulu-Natal. It's because my being and how I grew up and how I was raised was by a woman who was illiterate in our own understanding, but was literate to understand that I needed to know my language. At 8 o'clock, again, you young people don't know, we used to sit around the radio and listen to what we call a story. They were in all languages. And, story were those fairy tales. I think now you have them, but they're not so nice anymore. But we would sit around, and the point I'm making is that the idea of literacy was a continuum. So you listen, you read, you understood, and you were proud because you wished to be that radio presenter. I wished to be like you, to be able to read in my own language. The point is that it is a multi-pronged approach. I just want to take a moment and reflect on the impact of COVID in learning and teaching, mental health, and social cohesion. Our school accepts children from those schools that you saw there, from Quintile 1 schools, but only in grade 8. We are feeling the impact of COVID on the girls. Just to make the point clearer, the girls that we accepted in grade 8 last year and this year were in grade 3 and 4 respectively during COVID. So if you understand that the importance of foundation education, it means those children missed out on foundation education. And they get to high school, whatever high school it is, their level of reading and writing and understanding is grade 3. At best. And I say at best because those schools in the Quintile 1 and 2 schools, by design, do not even have quality services. So the grade 3 that they have is not even quality grade 3 because the schools are overcrowded, they have no qualified teachers, there's no safety, and there's no nutrition. So there is zero foundation. And when you, and And remember at the time, the government decided that the strategy, and it was probably the best strategy to do at the time, was to cut the curriculum. So they didn't even finish the curriculum that they were entitled to. And if you remember, they were studying in WhatsApp. So there's zero foundation. So the learners who were in grade 1 in 2020 will be in grade 8 in 2027. Those learners we don't have ECD, we don't have grade R. They were in grade 1 in 2020, and 2021 was still COVID. So they don't have any foundational education. The only time that they're going to behave with any impactful education is when they start to go to schools. So you can imagine the backlog that schools are dealing with. So unless we are intentional about dealing with the curriculum gaps and deficits, we will have lost a whole generation. I make the point about the difference between curriculum gaps because you look at people, they say, oh, we're recovering, we've got a recovery program, and they reteach the curriculum. The most important thing that our children have lost are the skills, problem-solving skills, comprehension skills, and those are the things that become the deficits. Am I running out of time? And in conclusion, I think the point that I want to say is that when you have a library or a book, a box, it's not enough to just to have the book. You have to balance it with spelling bees, you have to balance it with board games, you have to balance it with many things that make education important. So as much as we're grateful for AVBOB, my message is to the rest of the system, that the rest of the system must play along. Because unless the system complements what AVBOB has done, these will be white elephants. So thank you very much and have a great evening.
It's incredible. So I'm just reminded of the journey that one takes when they're reading books. Imagine you reading a book of somebody who has experienced certain incidents in their lives, somebody whom you've never met. You become an individual that's well-traveled. And imagine if you pick up a book and you read. And also that is a culmination of places traveled. So reading is crucial.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Soweto Gospel Choir.